Good evening, everybody. I will call to order the Marin Water Board meeting of June 4th, 2024. Terry, if we could have roll call, please.
Good evening. Director Larry Russell.
Here.
Director Monty Schmidt.
There.
Yeah, okay. He's frozen. Director Jed Smith.
Here.
Vice President Matt Sampson.
Here.
And President Ranjiv Kush.
Here.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adopt today's meeting agenda?
So moved. Second.
Terry, are there any public comments on the agenda?
Not on the agenda.
Okay, then if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Yes, Director Russell.
Aye.
Director Schmidt. Director Smith.
Aye.
Vice President Sampson.
Yes.
And President Kush.
Aye. The next item is public comments on items that are not on the agenda.
Yes, we have Mr. Phil Sauter.
Good evening. Two things. First, I noticed that our water production is back up to 21 million gallons a day, same as it was last year at this time. The difference is that last year we were importing 11 million gallons a day from Sonoma, and that helped maintain water supply in our reservoirs. In recent weeks, we've been bringing in only 1 million or so gallons a day from Sonoma, and our reservoirs are drawing down twice as fast. I'm not sure if this is an operational issue or a financial decision or something else, but I wanted to acknowledge the change from past practices. Second, I've been reading the 2023 update to the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. This was presented in February of last year, soon after the new board members were seated. In looking through that document, it seems there was less of a sense of urgency then about conserving our water supply than I've been hearing during the past few board meetings. So I wonder if it would be time for a review and update of that document. Even though we've had some welcome wet years recently, we all know that our reservoir supply can head south pretty quickly unless we make conservation a priority even in good times. For example, it takes a stage 3 deficit or 55,000 acre feet of storage until golf courses have to cut their use by 30%. It takes a stage 4 deficit or 45,000 acre feet of storage until irrigation is limited to 1 day a week. I'm wondering if perhaps we shouldn't wait until our reservoirs are half empty before we take these actions. The contingency plan also calls for a monthly update at regularly scheduled board meetings. That would include rainfall, storage levels, and an end-of-year storage forecast. It could be that this information is in the consent item packet, or it could be that I haven't been paying attention, but I'm not recalling these kinds of updates or discussions. Maybe next time. I think such a monthly update would provide a good forum to discuss whether there are any changes we could be making to the contingency plan so that customers have the knowledge, the time, and the incentives to keep long-term conservation, especially reducing outdoor use of potable water, at the top of their minds. In my opinion, wasting less potable water outdoors is going to be the best and most equitable way to ensure the long-term reliability of our water supply. And the sooner we can reach out to heavy users and get their buy-in, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Thank you for the inputs. We'll move on to directors and general managers announcements, starting with directors. Matt, do you want to kick us off?
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Jed?
Yeah, we had a Finance and Administration Committee meeting on May 23rd. Staff provided the committee with an overview of the district's monthly financial report and quarterly investment report. The committee also received an update on the current national insurance market and a preliminary impacts on the district's FY 2025 financial insurance plan. Staff also provided a financial analysis of the district's water efficiency programs as it relates to water supply roadmap planning and kicked off an initial review of the Board of Directors handbook with the committee. The handbook will be reviewed and discussed in greater detail in upcoming meetings and then reported out before the next board term. The public may access the video and documents in the May 23rd FAC meeting on the district's website. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Terry, I can see you giving me the side eye there. Because I'm supposed to say we've broken out committee reports into a separate agenda item, but I always forget. Sorry, Terry. I think it's okay, right? We'll move on then to Larry.
None.
Monty, are you there?
I am. Nothing for me tonight.
Help us understand that new procedure.
Well, I think a few meetings ago, about a month or two ago, right, we revised our agenda structure so that announcements are independent of committee reports. So we now have announcements, then there's a separate agenda item for committee reports.
I think it
But-
was just allow just a little more elaboration on the committee reports and you know, what it encompassed and maybe some questions and brief discussions in case board members hadn't attended the prior committee.
And I think conversely, Molly, we also noted it may be opened up a little more for directors' announcements, give us a little more space to talk about issues there.
Yeah, that's true.
Great. Okay, then, Ben, any general managers announcements?
President Kush, I do have a couple items to share tonight. The first, the district is, you know, as part of our fuel management program and BIFOP work, creates quite a number of piles on the watershed. And then if we can access it, we do try and go and mulch them, but often because of difficulty on slope, we do pile burning. And I wanted to share that not everything goes deal. And on May 28th, one of the piles flared back up in the evening. So fortunately, it did get observed and reported to us. We had a response by the ranger. It was fortunate, slow rate of spread, a total area of 50 feet by 50 feet. And it was put out, but it did prompt, you know, a review of what occurred. And our practice is shifting to where we will have a staff person. That burning was done by contractors. So going forward, we'll have a staff person on site during particularly at the mop up and at the end of the activity to ensure that the piles are out. I also wanted to share that the transformers, you may have noticed on the agenda, that item was not on there, the poles, that ongoing emergency. The transformers were picked up and that site is now fully open and that project's completed. So I did want to share that. And lastly, I did want to follow up on an incident that was reported to the board. And that was a Fairfax Manor pump station where the grinder, the roadway gave way, presumably due to the slide repair there, and a grinder toppled over onto the pump station. So the grinder has gotten removed and PG&E is assessing the site for safety. Indications are it will be some time before that pump station. It looks like fairly significant repairs. We haven't had a chance to go there and get fully understand, but we have shared with the town of Fairfax at their request an approximate cost of $4 million that it may take to rebuild that pump station. And I believe they're reporting out to their council at their next council meeting with the understanding there'll be a process to understand liability. It was PG&E's paving job. There was a contractor there and the road is a town of Fairfax's. So it's not, Molly will probably be busy over some time navigating that. That's the extent of my report outs.
Thanks, Ben. Any follow-up from board members? Thanks a lot, Ben. Both pretty significant items. Great. Thank you for the updates. We'll move on then to our consent calendar, which today includes 5 items that are documented in the staff report. Number 1 is to approve minutes from our last board meeting on May 21st. Number 2 is to approve the water and energy efficiency grant funding and authorize the general manager to execute the grant agreement with Sonoma Water. Number 3 is to approve a resolution authorizing award of contract number 2031 to asphalt concrete paving restoration and concrete work to WK McLennan Company in a not to exceed amount of $13,899,201 over 3 years. Number 4 is to approve a resolution authorizing award of contract number 2032 for the 2024 anode replacement contract to Exara Technologies Corporation in the amount of $67,850. And finally, number 5 is to adopt a resolution calling for and consolidating the election of district directors in divisions 2 and 5 with the November 5, 2024 statewide general election, and request that the Marin County Elections Department perform all necessary election services and canvassing of said election. Terry, any public comments on the consent items?
There are none.
Then do we have a motion to approve our consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Terry, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Schmidt.
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Vice President Sampson,
Yes.
President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Our regular agenda begins with item 9A, which is a capital program update, including requests to fill 2 construction inspector positions and 1 environmental specialist position in the engineering division. And it looks like Alex is in the hot seat.
That's correct. Good evening, President Kush, board members. Alex Anaya, Engineering Director. This evening, I'll be presenting this item. I have a PowerPoint. Please bear with me 1 second. Whoa. What's going on here? There it is. Okay. Okay. So again, Alex and I, Engineering Director. This evening, I'll be presenting this item for the Capital Improvement Program and staffing updates. So this evening, we will be reviewing the, oh, the screen's in the way. The capital program for fiscal year 24, along with the fiscal year end projections. We will also be reviewing various capital projects that are currently underway, including unplanned capital projects that do come up from occasions that cause staff to have to kind of pivot, adjust, and adapt to make sure those happen, as well as other construction projects in design and in construction currently. We will then be reviewing staffing plans that will be needed to execute the increased capital program investments and allow the district to start making headway on the various capital projects. And then we'll round out this evening by a summary of the expenditures along with the recommendations by staff. So to start off with a summary of the fiscal year 24 CIP budget. So there's a lot of stuff in here, so just bear with me 1 second. So this table shows our fiscal year 24 adopted budgets for the various fund centers that have been condensed into one of these 6 different categories to help reflect the total adopted budget of $32.9 million. As you can see in the second column here, the expenditures and encumbrances that have been through May 24th to 24 for each of the respective categories, with the remaining budget percentages in the next 2 columns. The last 2 columns identified in this table are the projected expenses with encumbrances through the end of this fiscal year, along with the remaining budgets. So staff is estimating that 87% of the total adopted budget will be used or encumbered by the end of this fiscal year, and the remaining budget will be carried forward into the next fiscal year to help complete those projects. I did want to point out this storage tank category where there is a projected exceedance by about $350,000. And that's mostly due to change order work that's associated with the Pine Mountain Tunnel project that causes overage during this fiscal year. In addition, the projected end of fiscal year expenses, $28 million and encumbrances was actually analyzed and established by staff by being considered and including the upcoming pipeline construction contracts that are going to be awarded this month, which will have an estimated total project cost of approximately $4 million. Staff have also will be encumbering the remaining consultant contract budgets for the Tokoloma, Phoenix, Bontempi, and Castania pump station projects that will also draw down that fund center. In addition to purchasing chemical feed pumps and other equipment for the treatment plants that are part of the capital maintenance work. And you'll see the $1.4 million, which in the treatment plant category, which will go towards the San Geronimo treatment plant roof replacement, which is currently underway, and staff are looking to execute a contract for that project next fiscal year. Lost my spot. Within the watershed category, there will also be encumbrances for trail repair improvements, watershed culvert replacements, and the BIFIP work, along with contract encumbrances for spillway capacity assessment work, in addition to the Alpine Gallery cleaning, which will draw down the balance within that category. And rounding out the capital equipment and facilities replacement purchases, such as vehicles, heavy equipment, and other tools that will exhaust about $1 million within the system improvements category, with the remaining $211,000 being carried forward into next fiscal year that will go into the ERP project. So this table shows the larger capital projects identified in the adopted budget for the various fund centers that are either in the planning design phase or within construction in both fiscals year 24 and 25. So this is just a subset of all the projects. Otherwise, it'd be a very extensive long list. So these are the bigger projects that I'm showing here today. So you'll notice that a majority of these large capital projects will span both fiscal years with larger budgets that are going to be allocated in the upcoming fiscal year for project construction and implementation. I also wanted to take a minute and point out that the pipelines identified within these 2 fiscal years do represent approximately 54,200 feet of pipe, or 10.25 miles of pipeline that will be installed, which is almost twice what the district has historically installed in recent years. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the selected capital projects that the district is currently working on. So starting off with the unplanned capital projects this year. So on occasions, this type of work does come up that's unplanned for, and it's not identified in the 2-year adopted capital budget. And it does require staff to take action in order to complete this work. This current fiscal year, the district was presented with 2 such projects that required staff to address. Since these projects were unplanned and unbudgeted for, staff needed to review the current projects within the pipeline fund centers to identify revenue source that can be transferred from projects that are not far along enough in the way to cover these projects and make sure we get them completed. So the first of these projects was the Edwards Avenue Pipeline Replacement Project located within the city of Sausalito, in which the district was notified earlier this year that during construction of the city's sewer and road rehab project, there were shallow services in mainline. So that caused the district to need to act. So as a result, city staff and the district worked together to execute a reimbursement agreement to have the district's main line and services included within the city's projects, or the city's project. And staff did bring this item to the board on April 30th for project approval and authorization to execute the reimbursement agreement with the city of Sausalito. And just as a note, this project is wrapping up and will be completed late next week. The second of these unplanned projects was identified as a Bridgeway pipeline replacement project, also within the city of Sausalito. And this arose because there's been multiple main breaks on this 300-foot section of cast iron pipe that has resulted in costly claims against the district. So this caused this section of pipe to be elevated and identified for replacement to eliminate future risk of main breaks and claims against the district. So staff are currently working on finalizing the design for this project, and will be utilizing the district's on-call construction contract to execute the replacement of this 300-foot section of pipe. These two pipeline projects in this next slide are currently in construction and are examples of larger, more visible pipeline projects that the district is currently working on. The Granada Pipeline project is located within the town of Corte Madera and will be replacing approximately 2 miles of leak-prone cast iron pipe within this neighborhood. Construction of this project is currently underway and is scheduled to be completed mid-2025. The second of which is the Sir Francis Drake Boulevard Pipeline Replacement Project that will be replacing approximately 4,500 linear feet of cast iron pipe that was installed as early as 1924 on a very high visible, high traffic arterial road within the town of San Anselmo. So this project has construction complexities that include construction sequencing of the project, multiple traffic control plans depending on where the project is at the time, in addition to coordination with the local schools so that construction work begins during the school summer break to minimize disruption to the students. And construction for this project is scheduled to start on the 17th of this month after school's over. Some storage tank projects currently in construction include the Pine Mountain Tunnel Tanks project. So this year we're going into year 2 of phase 1, which is slated to begin in August of this year and completed by January 25 for the first phase of construction. The phase 2 design of the actual tanks is currently being developed and will be coming, or staff will be coming back to the board later this year for award of a contract to start construction of that in fiscal year 26. Wolfback Ridge Tanks is also currently into construction and looking to start on October of 2024 this year, once demands are down outside of the fire window, and completion of that project is anticipated by February of 2025. Some pump station and treatment plant projects in design include the Tocolomo Pump Station, which is a $4.7 million project to replace pumps, motors, and electrical equipment, as well as fire hardening the pump station, which will increase the capacity from 20 MGD to 28 MGD and is expected to be completed in fiscal year 26. Again, kind of previously mentioned is the San Geronimo Treatment Plant Roof Project, which is currently in design, and we're looking to start construction early this next fiscal year. In addition to those projects, some dam projects that staff are currently working on include some spillway condition assessment project, which is part of a statewide dam assessment following the 2017 Oroville Dam incident, which resulted in staff having to evaluate dams for, surface defects, making minor surface repairs, doing some coring, looking underneath the spillway to evaluate voids, and doing some ground penetrating radar analysis to make sure that our spillways are structurally sound. In addition, we're also doing the spillway capacity assessment, which will be assessing the spillway capacities for climate change and atmospheric river impacts to ensure that we know and understand what the capacities of our spillways are to safely pass large storm events. And lastly, staff is also working on spillway modifications projects, which will start by focusing on the Nicasio Reservoir and modifications that are needed to install flashboards to increase reservoir storage. This project will also be looking at additional spillway modifications on Alpine, Kent, and Sulahuli for additional storage. And staff will be returning later this month with a consultant contract for this work. So a lot of work going on into the future. So with that in mind, we're also focusing on the staffing plan for this project delivery going forward. So
Alex, maybe before
Sure.
we go into the staffing plan, we
Sure.
can stop for a minute and see if
Absolutely.
directors have any questions or
Sure.
comments. Jed, anything? Larry? Any questions?
Sounds great.
Okay, Monty?
No, all good right now.
Okay, thanks. Just a quick one, Alex, when we're looking at pipeline replacement programs, is there a strategy for risk assessment to try to catch the more vulnerable sections before to head off water main breaks? Is there a way to do that, or is it mostly done by some combination of age versus accessibility, location?
yeah, that's correct. Age is a big factor that plays into the process, as well as material type and location. Obviously, a pipeline such as something on the hub, it's more of a bigger impact to traffic. It needs to be considered for replacement. So there's a lot of that analysis as well as, coordination with operations and historical main break information and history of repairs that they have done that all go into kind of this matrix to determine a replacement schedule.
What gets prioritized?
Correct.
Great, thanks. Yeah.
Sure.
We can move on to the staffing plan then.
Okay. So going into CIP budget overview. So prior to this fiscal year, the last 12-year annual CIP investments have ranged anywhere between $16 to $26 million, with an average being about 21 million. The projected ongoing capital budget is estimated to be approximately $53.5 million, which is almost tripling the district's current annual CIP budget. The increased capital budget will be critical in meeting the district's obligations to address the deferred infrastructure improvements, increasing rates of infrastructure rehabilitation and replacement, to build a more resilient water system that's reliable throughout the service area. In addition to increasing funding for wildfire mitigation work on fire and fuels management on our watershed, which will help further reduce our wildfire risk, and replacing the district's outdated enterprise resource planning software, ERP, which will allow the district to better manage day-to-day business activities and help improve customer service. And rounding out that will also help staff focus on water resiliency efforts such as a water supply project, which will ensure the district has become more drought resilient into the future. Just to touch on the bigger items that the staff will be working on. So in order to
Alex, just back to that last
Sure.
one. I don't think it'd be understated how historic this investment is that this organization is taking on to improve the infrastructure of Marin water for our customers, to increase our resiliency. This is a massive move that that we're undertaking, and super appreciate your stewardship of it. And I don't think that can be underscored how important this is.
Thank you. So in order to make all this happen, staff have completed a very detailed staffing resource analysis to determine future staffing levels, as well as consultant needs to address that. So first, staff start off by reviewing past projects to extract staff charge times by the different types of projects, to establish a workload capacity by the different projects, pipelines, tanks, pump stations, rehabs. Then staff also reached out to local Bay Area utilities that have similar CIP budgets as we're estimating to be into, to determine what their staffing loads is and how they also leverage consultants to manage the CIP. With that information, staff compiled all the capital projects that were identified in the adopted budget between fiscal year 24 through 28, and then projected the staffing workload capacity by the different project types, the size, the complexity, and the duration, since most of these projects do span multiple years. Then staff also projected the staffing workload for each of the engineering departments to help determine the staff workforce needed to execute the CIP workload. So basically it's categorizing and aligning all the projects by year to determine how many resources from each respective department are needed to make sure that happens. At the conclusion of the analysis, it was identified that the planning department, construction, and design all have near staff resource needs to make sure this happens. So we've identified a hybrid approach of converting existing vacant positions and select new ones, as well as leveraging consultant support to manage the CIP going forward. So in this slide, it's kind of an overview of the entire engineering division. So currently in the engineering division, there's a total of 40 positions available, of which 4 are currently vacant. Staff have identified opportunities to convert existing positions to help fill some of these near-term staffing needs. So staff did recently bring an item to the board to convert a vacant land surveyor position into a supervising land surveyor position that will be integrated into the drafting team in order to create a more streamlined structure of that work group and provide continuity of professional service work to the district. And this position will be within the design department. In addition, during the evaluation of the current and future capital projects, staff also identified a growing need of an environmental expert who is really familiar with state and federal environmental compliance needs for projects, grant applications, including managing and tracking environmental documentation and responding to regulators to ensure time of completion of all the documentation needed for environmental compliance. There was also a need by a watershed for a similar position to assist with updating the roads and trails plan, as well as filing CEQA documentation for watershed culvert replacement projects going forward. So given the technical nature of this position, staff identified the need to convert the senior engineering position to an environmental specialist that will be within the planning department. In addition, staff also identified the growing need for additional construction inspectors for the district's capital project, as well as getting, as we get into multi-year projects. So we've identified the opportunity to convert a couple of vacant positions, including the senior CAT specialist and the real property agent, into 2 new construction inspector positions. Now, what's interesting about the senior CAT specialist is that that position is within the drafting team, and many of these tasks in this position do overlap with the supervising land surveyor position. In addition, the work of the licensed supervising land surveyor does align with some of the tasks of the real property agent. Therefore, there's an opportunity for the supervising land surveyor to also provide district staff with assistance with real property needs, such as preparing map and legal descriptions, drafting easement documents, and identifying district property boundaries on occasions when they come into question with residents nearby. So by integrating the various tasks of these 2 vacant positions into the supervising land surveyor position, the district can convert these 2 positions into 2 construction inspectors that will be under the construction department. So even with the conversions and addition of these staff in these departments, there still will be some need for consultant inspection support and consultant support for planning and design for some of the more technical engineering projects going forward. So this is how the plan is to leverage adding new staff in addition to consultant support. So to kind of summarize this, generally the fiscal year 24 and 25 CIP is on track and is moving forward, and the district will continue to be working towards executing all the projects. The conversion of the existing positions within the engineering division will fill the immediate staffing needs within those respective work groups. Therefore, staff is recommending that the board of directors authorize a general manager to recruit and hire 2 new construction inspectors and 1 new environmental specialist within the engineering division. And staff will be looking to return at a future board meeting with an approach to hire a few additional select positions within the engineering division. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Alex. Matt, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, no questions tonight, Alex. Just some comments. One, thank you very much for the presentation. It was really good to hear this update because it's hard to remember this time last year when we were looking to approve a budget. We had a lot of excitement about that, but actually seeing what's going on is even more exciting, especially with the accelerated workload that all the district staff are helping to move. We're really carrying through with what we promised to the public, the ratepayers last year, was to get things back on track and actually get shovels in the ground, things moving. And although we're not directly constructing water supply projects yet, these are just as critical to make sure the district remains operationally and operationally efficient and actually be able to move towards increasing our water supply. So it's appreciated for sure. And also the constant reevaluation of staff and needs. Encourage that as much as you can, remain adaptive. I mean, we're changing the work capacity, the workload, and all of these things relatively quickly. And so changing staff makes a lot of sense. So thank you for staying on top of it.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Jed?
Just a little clarity. So, you are converting some positions from other roles to new roles. Are there additional new hires adding to the organization that we did not have in terms of total headcount that you're recommending?
Not at this time, but we will be coming back at a future board date with an approach on how we
Got it.
plan to do that.
It'd be great, Ben, to have, an overview across the board of how you prioritize hires, what open positions we might have, and across all the different departments, and not look at them just piecemeal one by one, but we can take a whole look at the whole organization and then figure out how you determine which ones rise to the top.
Yeah, so in the annual work plan, there is an item to do just that. Look district-wide at kind of resource needs and opportunities over the short term and long term in a prioritized fashion. And staff has started that effort. We're bringing this because this is kind of a near-term, very critical focus need. And as Alex noted, kind of the three-part strategy to deal with the CIP, which is these conversions that are pretty, I think, creative of combining positions and really some hard thinking of, do we need a dedicated real property position, that sort of thing, or and so some of this is, we think not. So we're going forward with these conversions. The second path is select new positions, a handful. And then the third is leveraging consultants. And this is going to be a very modest increase in staffing given the significant increase in the CIP. But we really want to give that a shot and really see how we can leverage. And we've been talking to staff as well and explaining, because it's somewhat unique to in our kind of experience, to the extent we're going to be leveraging staff with not just design consultant, but also contract inspection work as well, to really get this work out there. So we'll continue to be talking to the board about capital delivery, the activities and the resources going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Jed. I think that a global view also of human resource needs, or an update on that would be helpful. Monty, any comments, questions?
Both you and Jed brought up what I was going to say, which is it would just be good to see these things in the comprehensive. But I appreciate, Alex, that we're adjusting to the resources that we have to make it make these positions as effective and address the needs that we've got, which are going to shift and change over time. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Monty. Larry?
No comment.
Okay. Yeah, Alex, it's really encouraging. I mean, and it's timely, right? Because in the news, there was a lot of news about the water shortages in Atlanta right now due to deteriorating infrastructure that's really starting to affect the delivery of water services in a very important, city, metropolitan area of the U.S. I think we know that this is always a problem, underinvestment in capital maintenance, because we can't see that infrastructure. So as Jed noted, it's really heartening to be able to finally try to, move forward and get a grip on that. Yeah, thanks for the encouraging update.
Oh, you're welcome.
Public comments, please, Terry.
Yes, Mr. Phil Sauter.
Thank you for another excellent presentation. This comment isn't directly related, but I appreciate the fact that you mentioned the watershed as something that you look at for investment. I think it's the district's most valuable asset. A couple of days ago, some friends and I hiked along the Woodacre Ridge. And for those of you who haven't been there, on the right-hand side heading west is Marin County Open Space, and on the left-hand side is the Water District. I really noticed as I was walking along there through the Sargent Cypress area that on the open space side, the trees were less healthy, a lot of branches missing, and dead branches lying on the ground. Whereas on the left-hand side, the Water District's property, the trees looked a lot healthier, larger, fewer dead branches, and nothing lying on the ground. And I was really kind kind of taken aback to realize, just how good a management organization the district is in terms of keeping after its assets. And this is another example of that. So thank you very much to staff and the board for doing that.
Thank you.
I hope we can pass that on to Sean.
There
Ok-
are no further speakers.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Then we have two items for approval. I'll just read these out. The first one is to authorize the general manager to recruit and hire 2 construction inspectors in the engineering division. The second item is to authorize the general manager to recruit and hire 1 environmental specialist in the engineering division. Unless are questions, I think we could do this with a single motion for all 3 positions.
Great. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thanks, Matt. Then could we have a roll call vote, please, Terry?
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Schmidt,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Vice President Sampson,
Yes.
and President Kush.
Aye. Our next item is future board and committee meetings and upcoming agenda items.
Does the board have any items, or may I proceed?
Oh, any items that we would like to be included in future meeting agenda?
Yes.
Doesn't seem like it, Terry,
Okay,
not
good.
today.
I mean, good that I could proceed. Sorry. So upcoming meetings, the week of June 17th, there are 3 meetings. June 18th is a regular board meeting. A key item, there are actually 2. The one is a public hearing, which will be to adopt the final initial study mitigated negative declaration for the Phoenix Bond Tempe connection project and approving that project, as well as the 2024 Strategic Annual Work Plan Quarterly Progress Update. Later that week is the Watershed Committee meeting, with the key item being the Trails Pilot Project. And at the end of that week is the Operations Committee meeting. And as Engineering Director Anaya said, the Spillway Assessment and Modification Contract will be a discussed item. And then Thursday, June 27th is the FAC meeting, and they'll have one of the items discussed that will be discussed is the mid-cycle budget review. There are a lot of external meetings coming up this month. June 7th, this Friday, there are 2, the Lagunitas Creek Technical Advisory Committee meeting, which will be held here. And then also it's the North Bay Watershed Association meeting, not conference as it states here. And that's just a Zoom meeting. It's not in person. Next week, we have 2 meetings, or one will be a conference, the American Water Works Association annual conference. And then on the 12th is the Tomales Bay Foundation meeting. So that's all I have to report on.
Thank you, Terry. So now we will be convening to closed session to discuss with legal counsel an arbitration proceeding over an HR issue. Do we have any public comments on the closed session item?
There are none.
Okay, then we'll convene to closed session.
Thank you.
We're reconvening to open session for the board meeting of June 4th. Our closed session was adjourned at 8 p.m. with no actionable items to report. And with that, we will adjourn our Marin Water Board meeting of June 4th, 2024.